listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you today. It is a kind of an interesting looking Monday, June the 27th, 2020. Oh, it's June the 26th. I think I put the wrong date. Yeah, I did. Oh, no. Yeah. Put the wrong date on the show. But anyways, it is what it is. It happens. Mistakes happen every once in a while. So grateful to be here with you on this marvelous June the 26th, 2023. It is Monday nonetheless, and we're happy to be here with you. Glad that you're here with us. Maybe it's all the smoke that's kind of getting to my brain. I don't know, but it's something that we're going to be talking about a little bit later on in the show. Actually, not all that late, as we're going to be talking about that in our weather. Welcome aboard. If you are from Sudbury, you know exactly what I'm talking about with the smoke. If you have been from Sudbury and you're joining us from abroad, there's been a lot of smoke here, and there's going to be more smoke from the fires in Quebec and northeastern Ontario. Some of the worst in the world, actually, and we'll get to that. We're live on CKLU 96.7 FM, as we are each and every weekday morning between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning. And also we're streaming at cklu.ca. So you can stream us anytime. You just click on the Radio Player Canada app from anywhere in the world, by the way. You can also download that same Radio Player Canada app and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. And not only that, we're also live streaming at facebook.com/Sudbury News and youtube.com/Sudbury News. You can catch us live. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, follow all the channels. And mainly, though, comment on the show, because you can, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, you can comment. I'll do my best to get the comments read, but for sure, I'll get them up on the screen. So visually, you can see them. And if you were interested, usually later on in the show, the comments start rolling in and I'm not able to continue getting them. At the beginning, it seems to be a little easier. But if you want to check the show later and say, oh my goodness, I wonder what other people were saying about that, you can catch the show on demand on either YouTube or Facebook later after the show. So make sure to comment, and I'll do my best to get the comments read, but for sure, pretty much up on the screen. So with that, we'll start off with the weather, kicking things right off. We'll come back with your comments. We got a little bit of sports as well, but we'll be back with the show, starting with the weather right after this. Sudbury weather brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. Currently, it's 18 degrees and there is smoke and lots of it. Environment Canada has a warning out there for us. Sudbury.com also has basically a blurb on it. Just wanted to see where it is here, and here it is. So the smoke in Sudbury is some of the worst air pollution anywhere. The special air quality statement issued by Environment Canada on Saturday continued into Sunday, a day that many people will remember for its bizarre, hazy condition. The statement was issued at 5:31 a.m. and said high levels of air pollution had developed around Sudbury and other parts of northeastern Ontario because of smoke from forest fires. Smoke plumes and other parts. Smoke plumes from forest fires in Quebec and northeastern Ontario will continue to affect the area, resulting in deteriorated quality of air. Those values have been fluctuating throughout. Oh, it's listed, the showing, Sudbury is listed as in the top 5 of the worst air pollution in the cities in the world. A listing showing the most polluted cities, Sudbury is listed as 4th. North Bay is 2nd. Those values have been fluctuating throughout the day, however. Overall, the air quality listing in Sudbury is hazardous. A forecast for the coming week shows Sudbury Air Quality Index will ease off a bit today and tomorrow, but will spike again on Wednesday and Thursday. Environment Canada's statement added that air quality and visibility can change from hour to hour as well as fluctuating over short distances. Environment Canada said wildfire smoke can be harmful to everyone's health, even at low concentrations. People are urged to continue taking actions to protect their health and reduce exposure to smoke. That advice was backed by a similar news release issued on the weekend by Public Health Sudbury and districts. People with lung disease, such as asthma, heart disease, older adults, children, pregnant people, and people who work outdoors are at higher risk of experiencing health effects caused by wildfire smoke, said the statement. So definitely it's gonna be smoky for a little while still, with those fires still continuing. Today, showers with a risk of thunderstorm. Widespread smoke becoming local smoke near noon. Widespread smoke becoming local smoke near noon. All right, so local amount 10 to 20 millimeters of rain, high of 22, humidex 29, so it's still very warm. I know this morning it was kind of wet, but it was very warm. Tonight, showers with risk of thunderstorms, local smoke amount of, and then local amount of rain, 10 to 15 millimeters. Showers with a risk of thunderstorm tonight, widespread smoke, high of 17. A very warm night tonight. Your extended forecast. Tuesday, as we said, 17. Showers are expected. Wednesday, 40% chance of showers, high of 23. Thursday, sunny, however, smoky. And Friday, mix of sun and cloud and smoke. Or sorry, that was Wednesday and Thursday they were saying smoke. We don't know about Friday at this point, but a mix of sun and cloud, high of 26. And then Saturday and Sunday, 30% chance of showers, 40% chance of showers, 25, 26 is your high. That's your bit of your extended forecast. And your satellite, lot of cloud activity over northern Ontario. And that will bring us some of the rain that's forecasted for today and for tomorrow, and possibly some the rest of the week as well. So that's your Sudbury weather, brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. And we'll be back with some sports and your headlines and your comments right after this. All right, beginning with the Sudbury Wolves, you can get your season tickets for the 23-24 season. They're on sale now. They're memberships, they're called now. They're not called seasons tickets anymore. They're memberships. 23-24 season membership on sale now. For all the perks, go to SudburyWolves.com. And Sudbury Sports is brought to you by SudburySports.com today, just so everyone knows. The under-18s win at home. This is the Spartans, but the men's team lose in Ottawa is the headline. This coming to you from the Sudbury Star Sports. With defenses on both sides holding fast, the Sudbury Junior Spartans look for answers elsewhere to break open a key contest against their under-16 football rivals from Quinte on Saturday afternoon. So the under 16 were able to come out with a 30-2 victory at James Jerome Complex. That is, looking at the headline again here. That's under 18s win at home. Junior Spartans show versatility. Composure wins over the U16s, under 16s. So the under 18s win, under 16s win, but the men's team lose in Ottawa. They're now currently 0-4 on the season, I believe. Just want to get to the end of the story, as it should be. So, okay. Yep, they haven't won a game yet this season, the men's team, the Sudbury Spartans. So hopefully they're able to turn things around and get the ball rolling. It's not a very good pun when it comes to football. Probably better a soccer pun. But anyways, the Sudbury Spartans not doing the greatest today. So let's just move on with the show. Let's get to some headlines. Probably a deep dive today. It would be a great deep dive if we have the time. So let's see if we got time for that. But we'll be back with the news, headlines, your comments, and much, much more right after this. All right, welcome back, and thanks for being with us today. I know our video is probably named the 27th of June, but it is in fact the 26th. I don't even think I can change that now. Anyways, 26th of June, 2023. Good morning, Monique. Good morning, everyone. And Monique, thanks for sharing that video. Hopefully, it'll be part of our deep dive today because it goes hand in hand with some other things I wanted to share. So let's see if that can be our deep dive today. So much in the news to go through and so little time. Good morning, Judy. Thanks for being with us. Hope you're having a great Monday, as well as Monique. And yes, there's more than one Monique. Good morning. Thanks for being with us. Good rising. Tracy, good morning. A smiley, sunny emojicon. That's the new word for them. Emojicons. Juliet, good morning, everyone. Thanks for being with us. Belinda, good morning. Okay, kindness is the one thing you never lose. It always finds its way back to you. Wow, that's awesome. Wonderful one-liners to start the day. Thanks for that, Belinda. Denise, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Denise. Thanks for being with us. Good morning, campers. It's Brian. Thanks for being here, Brian. And Maurice, good morning. Exclamation marks. Emphasis on the good in the morning. Yeah. So, starting off with our first story, there was someone who is missing, an 84-year-old man, but apparently he's found. So, that was one of the comments. I don't have official news that he's found, but someone mentioned on the comments on our Facebook page that he is indeed found. So that's good news if indeed it is true. Sudbury air quality, listed as unhealthy. We talked about that already here on our weather portion of the show. Here's a couple letters I really want to get into today. Is the Greater Sudbury has lost its soul. That sounds very interesting. Neat headline. And many of you had things to say about that. And then another letter here of someone who attended the Minnow Lake town hall meeting with the mayor and Councillor Bill Leduc. Some of their thoughts on how these town hall meetings are going and similar feelings about how Greater Sudbury is doing these days. And the city's looking at fixing College Street underpass. You know, they're at the corner of Pine, where the Claridge Center is, and then if you go towards Sudbury Secondary, you go under the train. That's the underpass they're looking at fixing, and they want your input in it. So that's from the Sudbury Star. Sudbury.com, I think, also has a similar story. Richard says, just fix it. That's his input. Just fix it, which I guess I could relate to. Air quality again. So again, this picture says it all, right? I'll just maximize it. If you haven't been, if you're catching the show from somewhere else other than Sudbury, yes, it looks like a nice hazy day to some degree, but that's just smoke from the fires going on around the area from Quebec and northeastern Ontario. So it's pretty crazy stuff. And it's big in the news here because that's what we're talking about, because that's what we're breathing in each and every day. Social media giant Meta confirmed Thursday that it will end access to news on its social media sites for all Canadian users before Bill C-18, an online news act, comes into force. Heritage Minister Pablo Rodriguez says, we'll see what happens. In response to the announcement, I cannot base my decisions as minister on threats from a company. Minister Rodriguez, diplomacy at its finest. Okay, so this may go into our deep dive today. Anti-LGBTQ plus protesters outnumbered at school board demonstration when around 40 protesters picketed the Rainbow School Board office. I believe this was Saturday. They found themselves dwarfed by a passionate and colorful crowd of counter-protesters. So there you go. And we'll get into that a little bit later. I shared 3 stories from CBC on our feed, by the way, videos. National stories that also affect us locally. And this one was interesting. It's a really great conversation. Ian Bremer, a president of Eurasia Group, says a small number of wealthy and powerful people are making the decisions about how AI will play out in the economy, security, and in political space. But what does it all mean? What does it all mean? That a few oligarchs control everything. What does that mean? Well, we're living it out, so we'll see. So that's a great interview. It's someone who basically did a TED Talk on the subject, and if you've ever seen TED Talks before, they're pretty fantabulous. Someone gets the chance to really dig in to issues, or whatever, a topic, and really unpacks it. And it's a really great way to learn is TED Talks. If you haven't had a chance to see one, just Google TED Talks and watch a few. Sometimes it's subjects you don't even really care about, and you're like, wow, that was interesting. It certainly has lost its soul. This is to do with Sudbury, the letter to Sudbury Star. When you have your, okay, just lost that because other comments coming in. Lost your soul when you have to have your questions censored before the meeting. We're in trouble for sure. And Denise says, morning day of not having water, not having to water the garden. Yeah, so good morning, Denise. Thanks for being with us. Yeah, we got a little bit of precipitation out there, which is awesome. Steven's coming in here. Protest and anti-protest. Well, we're Friday at 11. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, that's the date. It was not Saturday. The weekend, there's lots of stuff going on. So corruption is the disease. Transparency is the cure, if we can get it. Morning, Vin. Thanks for being with us, my friend. And Brian sharing a TED Talk here, which is awesome. For anyone wondering. so many great topics about that. But anyways, this particular gentleman, Ian Bremer, president of Eurasia Group, if you get a chance to see his TED Talk on how AI, and we'll have more on AI, by the way, on the show. I've been compiling some things on AI, but just it's a matter of the time and the format of the show, talking about local things and AI. Although it will affect everyone, it's hard to kind of put it together with local as much. But anyways, it is what it is. It's just going to change our whole world. It's not the same. It will never be the same. A lot of us won't know what's real. We just, right now don't even know what's real or what's not real. But it's going to get to the point where it's really bad. No one will know whether they're coming or going. Yeah. So I guess this is along the lines of our story about the protest and a bit of our deep dive today. So we'll come back to that. The NHL, their decision to stop the players from wearing the Pride jerseys. And we'll have comments from Gary Bettman on that. And we'll have the CBC reporter kind of look, maybe a little bit of discussion about CBC reporters, if they show their bias or not when they're interviewing and when they have stories. Here's something that's unbiased, though, from CBC. Several Sudbury, Ontario businesses had their air conditioners vandalized, costing them thousands of dollars. So a picture of the doghouse here downtown. So I guess people are going around vandalizing air conditioners of businesses in Sudbury. So why? What the heck? What's going on here? Several Sudbury, Ontario businesses had their air conditioners vandalized, costing them thousands. Sudbury police arrested a suspect on June 16th. They believe was responsible for at least 6 copper thefts. They're stealing the copper. Excuse me. Smoky. A restaurant in downtown Sudbury has paid more than $9,000 to repair an air conditioning unit that was vandalized 3 times since the spring. The Doghouse Sports Bar is amongst at least a half a dozen businesses in Northern Ontario that had their air conditioning vandalized in recent months. It's not sustainable for a small business downtown to have to continue to replace their units at this point weekly. Wow. So the restaurant's office manager talking about that. Security footage from the Doghouse Sports Bar in Sudbury shows a man vandalizing the bar's air conditioning unit so that he can remove some copper piping. Yeah, it's just, I guess that's the world we're living in, right? Where people are, taking the copper and monetizing it. And I guess they just don't have the moral capacity or the ethics as well to realize that that's going to harm someone else more than it's going to benefit them, really. I don't know the whole story on that, but it's it's telling of the times we live in, I guess you can say. It's definitely an information war. Keep your wits about you. I guess that's on the AI comments I made earlier for sure. Information war for sure. So there is a war out for your mind. Always has been. That's where propaganda comes from, and just influencers on Facebook and YouTube. Influencers. So there's people influencing people to do something, whether it's buy something. So we're used to commercials on TV. That's basically like corporate propaganda for products, right? And they never live up to what they're saying they do. We're used to that. I'd love to come to comment on the AI thing. Okay, for sure, Brian. We'll look forward to that. No worries. Can't even read that word, unfortunately. And Andre said good morning, but then that got taken away for some reason on Facebook. I don't know why. It's all grayed out, but good morning to you. I think it says insutance. Is that what that says? I'm not sure. My eyes are playing tricks on me. But sorry about that, Denise. I'm not able to read it. They're stripping the copper. Yep, from the AC units. Good morning, Andre, as I said earlier. Miles Holmes. Cars Hill to getting their copper stripped from AC. Oh, homes on Coursey Hill as well. Okay, that's terrible. People are desperate. Yes, we are. Till the silent rise, it's going to get worse. Really worse. Oh, insurance. Okay, for sure. No problem. I knew the word, I'm learning lots of words, but it didn't look right for some reason. But yeah, insurance costs for sure. Yeah, they'd have to go through insurance if they do, and then their insurance rates rise, and you name it. So, okay, we're going to flip around here, go to these two letters, and then maybe we'll have some time for the deep dive today. Lots to get to. Sudbury has lost its soul. We definitely want to keep a positive vibe because we do believe in being positive, as many of you do as well. Good morning, Gilles from North Bay, I believe, chiming in. And good morning, Cliff. Run positive and negative to the copper pipes. Picks up the stack of barbecue in the next morning. Run positive and negative to the copper pipes. Pick up the stack of barbecue the next morning. Monique says, silence is consent, for sure. Yeah, anyways, comments coming in about various different topics we're talking about. So here we go. Sudbury's lost its soul. Do you agree? Amalgamation did more than assimilate the towns to the original city. It lost its soul. Before 2000, each town was self-sufficient, proud of its history and culture, and more importantly, engaged in the government of dedicated members of each community who served as elected representatives on town councils. These town councilors were part of each town, accessible, knowledgeable about the community, issues, and resident concerns. Today, the greater city of Sudbury operates as an extended in-law to the family circles that formed each town. There's no intimacy, there's little accessibility or knowledge of the town issues and concerns. Instead, a panel of elected, disjointed representation pretends to know what the issues are. Fire services are a perfect example. And lack of understanding by the current city council. They show ignorance of what volunteer fire services was and should remain, testament of community volunteerism in the city. Instead, council is a jumble of geographic representation, uninvolved in town issues, and dependent on the administration to make decisions. To restore the soul of Greater Sudbury, City Council needs to embrace this. And here's the main quote. This particular person, Karen Pappen, writing to the Sudbury Star, says, "The essence of community, its heart and soul, is the non-monetary exchange of value. Things we do and share because we care for others and for the goal and for the good of the place." Well said, Karen. I can't say that I disagree. And well-written letter. Jesse says, maybe if there's no unanimous votes, we should move to a system where there's a city referendum. Yeah, I've noticed a lot of unanimous votes going on lately, which makes me wonder about certain things and some controversial things too. Are all the represented areas being represented if everyone's always unanimous on things? We would like to see cohesiveness too in our city council, but I think Karen makes a great point. Corruption is paid for by the poor. Interesting. Can't say I disagree with that as well. We elaborate more on that. Well, we know if you're looking for good, unbiased information, this is the place to be. Yeah, Dave, I sense your sarcasm already. I know you're triggered when I say the CBC is biased, but it's also a proven fact the CBC is biased. So, and that's not me. That's a third-party organization. Thought it was the smoke from the forest fire until I found out that it was from the stolen ammonia nitrate in the States. I'd never even heard that. That's interesting. Okay, so Belinda amalgamation killed the small towns. Local mayors had to answer to the people for sure. Yeah, they were more accessible. They lived in their communities. So let's say Cape Coral, for example. The mayor of Cape Coral lived in Cape Coral. The councilors lived in Cape Coral. Every decision they made would affect them personally, and they had to go to the grocery store or go to the restaurants there or just live there. So people knew where they lived. So yeah, there was a lot more accountability when it was that way for sure. Some footage from the heart and soul of downtown Sudbury, 1970. Thanks for sharing that, Brian. Yeah, I've seen a few of those. The way we used to do the crosswalks kind of thing. The lights would change and everyone would just cross any way they want, and all the cars stopped on the four directions kind of thing. That was kind of interesting, the way we did things back then. But Stevens tends to disagree that they weren't self-sufficient. That's why the province wanted to offload the infrastructure costs and the costs of maintaining the roads between them. She's right about the importance of close-knit community, however, but those outlining communities aren't really self-sufficient. That is true. The taxes alone couldn't sustain their infrastructure, and that's 100% true. Right? That's why you need different levels of government to begin with, and they all need to work together. And we are becoming an amalgamated world as you see the global economy kind of taking effect. It's only going to get more and more amalgamated. Sudbury letter, mayor, councillor did not impress at meeting. I attended the Middle Lake Town Hall meeting on June the 7th, hosted by Mayor Paul Lefebvre and Ward 11 Councillor Bill LeDuc. I was very disappointed. And there's the reasons why. The tone of the room was authoritarian. The 25 approximately attendees were asked to write questions on a piece of paper and hand the paper to staff, who stood at attention at the four corners of the room. The papers were then brought to two more staff at the front of the room, who sorted them out and read the quote-unquote appropriate ones aloud to the mayor and the councillors for a response. No discussion was allowed. A security guard, paid by the city, walked in and out of the room. The mayor rolled his eyes when questions were read. The councillor sat smugly, rubbing his hands and boasting about his and this councillor's hopes for the future developments in the area. Neither the mayor nor the ward councillor made any connection with the attendees. One attendee politely asked the mayor about Middle Lake Fire Station and the fire protection plan for Ward 11. The mayor asked him to leave and called the security guard and staff for backup. This town hall meeting was publicized as a get to know your mayor and ward councillor. And so we have over 90 minutes of listening to blaming and other excuses for inaction. I left the meeting feeling very pessimistic about the future of Sudbury as a progressive and democratic city. I know that I'm not alone. Good leaders require good listening skills and confidence in their ability to work positively with the people they serve. Sudbury is lacking that energetic and creative leadership. There was not one happy moment or even a smile in that room. Everyone sat upright in straight back chairs with lips tightly closing their mouths and a troubled look on their faces. Their hands were clasped together in their laps. One lady said to me, "It looks like church." And I said, "It's a lesson in obedience." And that is Dot Klein from Sudbury, letter to the editor from the Sudbury Star. And that was her experience at the town hall meeting. I know I've talked with Mike Parent, and we basically were applauding the idea of these town hall meetings, the idea of the mayor coming out and at least having them. Now, what I think is happening is there's a lot of us who are used to the former mayor not engaging at all. And so coming off the heels of that, I think anyone who did anything would look better than that. So if you really want to now get critical or criticize or really unpack it, this particular person is just saying their experience they went through at that meeting. Okay. Exactly how the mayors act, like Trudeau, and picks in the community, but they don't listen to the 85% or more. Looking for simple-minded people to keep them in line, I would think. Trudeau was the name it, shame it. Okay. Maybe some of the, I apologize for my reading, everyone. Just really, certain days are worse than others and the smoke isn't helping anything. Do we think they really care about the community? Yeah. Well, Sudbury is in big trouble. They are civil servants. We pay their taxes and they answer to us. We should be able to have our voices heard. Sounds to me like he's taking a page out of Trudeau's book. Well, again, he was Sudbury MP, Liberal MP under Trudeau, right? So I don't think there's that far of a distance between the two. In fact, I have a theory that he was handpicked to be that particular go-to person. And that was the reason why he would have left. Now, he cited personal reasons, family reasons. That's could be the case. However, it's pretty vague. I mean, let's say he got in a car accident. You couldn't say, well, Trudeau caused a car accident to get him to resign as an MP or to not run again, because he was obviously rehabilitating in a hospital because he got in a car accident. But since the reasons are vague and we don't really know why he stepped aside and stepped down, but then ran for mayor later, I can only speculate. And my gut feeling tells me he's there to keep an eye for the higher person. He's put in there by Trudeau, is my opinion. And again, opinions expressed on this show are only those of mine and the comments of the people that I read, any guests, and they don't necessarily reflect those of Laurentian University or that of CKLU. So, okay, a lot of comments coming in here, but I got to get moving on because we want to have some time here for a bit of a deep dive today. And it's going to start with a local story of, thanks to Stephen, we know that it took place on the Friday and not on Saturday. LGBTQ plus protesters outnumbered at school board demonstration. When around 40 protesters picketed at Rainbow School Board office, they found themselves dwarfed by a passionate and colorful crowd of counter-protesters. When approximately 40 anti-2S LGBTQ plus protesters picketed the Rainbow District School Board office and the former Wembley Public School today, they were met by more than 200 passionate and colorfully adorned counter-protesters. Wow. That's an interesting description of the counter-protesters. They were met by more than 200 passionate and colorfully adorned counter-protesters, the pride flags, balloons, singing and dancing exhibited along with the loud music playing out of not one but two speakers seemed to drown out any of the messaging that the original protesters sought to get out, and that the messaging pulled no punches in its level of misinformation and bigotry. So the protesters came with messages, pulled no punches with its level of misinformation and bigotry. Organizers dubbed itself as Save the Kids protest. And their social media messaging, they said they're tired of gender ideology, pride flags, reading material, trans agenda, political agendas, sex in schools. The slogan they chose, the grooming of our kids is unacceptable, highlights the type of misinformation the protesters were pushing. So that's misinformation, according to this particular reporter from Sudbury, from Sudbury.com. While the anti-2S LGBTQ plus protesters arrived shortly after 10:45, many of the counter-protesters had been on the scene for about an hour, ready to greet them with rainbow flags and apparel, signs, music, and more. And they didn't have misinformation with them. They only had true information. I just added that myself, but I'm sure that's what the gist of the story is. The protesters arrived with Canadian flags hanging out of their windows, honking as they made their way down Wembley Drive. They parked further away and walked past the counter-protesters, shouting about their belief in a Christian God, making only man and woman, claiming the school board was grooming and indoctrinating children with information about sexuality, and expressing anger that schools in the area allowed pride flags to be flown. One woman spoke specifically of elementary schools with pride flags, though it's not the case in Sudbury, as they only fly at secondary schools. Duh. I put the duh in, but that's the way the wording went. So I just had to put that. Many of the counter-protesters explained their fear that the lack of education would increase the number of suicides among young people. Transgender youth in Canada are 5 times more likely to attempt suicide than their cisgender counterparts. This reporter doesn't go into maybe possible reasons for that, other than more education would possibly prevent that. We'll see as more and more education comes out. This is me talking now. This isn't the story. As more and more education comes out, if those numbers will change, if trans or what does it say here? Transgender youth. That's right. If there's more education, if those numbers will come down for suicides, I would happen to think it probably will go up, not down, as more people choose to or know more about it. It's just the more you're taught to question reality, the more you are confused, the more you put yourself in a position to be disgruntled over something. But I'm not going to talk. Anyways, they go on. You can read the story, how it was way better for the counter-protesters than it was for the original protesters. The original protesters are bad, and the counter-protesters are good. You can read that in Sudbury.com. But let's just hear from one parent who was shared with me this morning from Monique. And this is in North Carolina, how some parent feels down there. And I think a lot of the parents here, if they were to have a voice and they weren't drowned out by not only one but 2 speakers here, this is maybe something of the message that they were trying to say. And now this is making it hard to even play, but we'll do our best and we'll get the volume up for everybody. And as you can see, it's just almost impossible to navigate this particular thing, but here you go. This is a parent in North Carolina's point of view on this whole thing here. Look at that. So it can't get volume now. There you go. And here you are.
Hello, everyone. I've been coming here for 5 years now, and I was going to talk to you about some practical things that I thought you could change about 3210, but I've changed my mind. I've been really confused over the last 5 years as to why we spend 45 minutes to an hour of every public meeting talking about how great everyone is and how great everything is in the schools, and now I've figured it out. I figured it out because all these people came here to defend you all from hurtful words. This is obnoxious. Let me just say, there is one goal for the educational system, It should be to prepare children to enter careers to be productive members of society. It is not a counseling session. It is not a self-help area. It is not somewhere to find yourself, and we should not be led by the children, for goodness sake. The children are called dependents for a reason. They depend on us who have fully developed brains. You cannot feel your way through life. The issues that we are talking about, we are bringing you statistics. We are talking about scholastics. We are talking about funding. We are talking about busing. We are talking about trying to figure out how to make our children be as successful as possible. And I am sure that that is your goal. And what we have been called tonight is what they're claiming that we're saying to children. We're having an adult conversation. There are not children in this room. We aren't going into the schools and calling them names. They call us Marxists and hateful and bigots and everything else under the sun. Well, let me tell you, less than 5% of the entire population of North Carolina identifies as LGBTQ. You guys all claim you want democracy. Well, you know what democracy is? It's the majority plus one. It's 50 plus 1. You know what? More than 50% of the people in this state claim that they believe in God, Almighty God, who made us male and female, God who made marriage between a man and a woman, God who said that we must protect our children. The fact that we can stand up here and we know, we can brag about all of the wonderful graduations, but we know the statistics. 50% of children did not pass their end of grade tests. What are we celebrating? We have children coming up here telling us how horrible the mental health crisis is. Why? Most of us went to public school, and all of our peers are not in mental health crises. We have to ask ourselves, what are we doing to our children? I'm going to say we are discussing things with them that they are not emotionally, intellectually, and morally able to handle. That is what is causing the anxiety. That is what is causing the depression. That is what is causing the confusion. We need our children to be able to be children, to be able to be innocent, to be able to enjoy childhood and not know all of the drama and all of the difficulties in adult life. That is what we want. We want our children to be able to read and write and to think for themselves, and we demand that the children who fear God are protected in your schools.
Is John.
Okay, so thanks to Monique for sharing that with me. So it just goes kind of in hand to have a voice, and they weren't drowned out by.
And we demand that the children who fear.
Of course, that is the most irritating thing to have to navigate every show when there's a video in that way. Anyways, it's just bizarre how it works. It doesn't let you click on something. It changes it once you scroll over it. It's just really, anyways. If I wanted to make someone very frustrated at playing a video, I would do it exactly that way. Not saying it's done on purpose whatsoever. But anyways, so that's what maybe some of the protesters would have wanted to say if they weren't drowned out by one or two speakers and outnumbered by 200 people. But why were they outnumbered, those people that just wanted that message to get across? And again, that wasn't a spokesperson from any Sudbury group or anything, but I do know that the main message is the same. There are people that aren't happy with what we're getting in our schools by being taught this ideology, and like the NHL even. So the NHL is stopped. So it's not like it's only the wrong parents in Sudbury with misinformation and whatever, as that Sudbury.com reporter alluded to. The NHL is also stopped, and this is from the CBC. Let's sense if the CBC agrees with the NHL's decision or not, as unbiased media.
Pride jerseys at the NHL are about to be a thing of the past. The NHL says it will no longer allow what it calls cause-based warm-up jerseys next season. The Board of Governors confirmed the decision yesterday. Albert Delatella tracking the latest on this for us today. Albert, what's behind the decision from the NHL?
Sure, Natalie. Well, Commissioner Gary Bettman's view was that a string of refusals by certain players to wear Pride jerseys overshadowed efforts by all the teams to show their support for the LGBTQ community and other groups and causes. Yesterday, the NHL's Board of Governors said it agreed with that perspective. The league says teams will still celebrate Pride and other theme nights, but cause-based jerseys won't be worn by teams when they return to the ice. All 32 teams held Pride or Hockey is for Everyone nights this past season season, but it's the pride jerseys that have become a hot button issue after multiple players refused to wear them. The first player to make that decision was Philadelphia Flyers defenseman Ivan Provorov, who cited his Russian Orthodox beliefs. The Florida Panthers brothers Eric and Mark Stahl also opted against wearing their team's pride jersey, they said for religious reasons. Bettman talked to Sportsnet after the Board of Governors meeting in New York yesterday, saying all this amounted to a distraction.
Final analysis, all of the efforts and emphasis on the importance of these various causes have been undermined by the distraction in terms of which teams, which players. This way, we're keeping the focus on the game, and on these specialty nights, we're going to be focused on the cause.
The NHL says teams will still design, produce, and sell pride jerseys, and players can model them if they like, but players won't wear them during warm-ups.
Albert, what has the reaction been to this decision?
Some people have noted the timing of the decision. Natalie, announced during Pride Month. The group You Can Play has worked with the leagues like the NHL against homophobia in sports. It said it was concerned and disappointed by the decision, and that the work to make locker rooms, boardrooms, and arenas safer, more diverse, and more inclusive needs to be ongoing and purposeful. It says it will continue working with the NHL to ensure that work happens. There's also been reaction on social media. Former NHLer Akim Aliu called the move absolutely shameful. He said, quote, that this is the epitome of bowing down to hate. And Sid Ziegler, who calls himself a gay sports writer, said hockey isn't for everyone, not yet. There are bridge building ways to address this issue. The NHL keeps getting this wrong. Natalie.
All right. Thank you, Albert.
Of course.
So pure unbiased news, they share the story and then they show one side of what they think about it. So did you see that tactic at all from CBC? So they share a controversial story, one that a lot of people are passionate about. And then they say, what are people saying about this? What are people saying about this? And then they just share people that are against it. And that's your news for the day. So they never. Well, what about some of these parent advocacy groups that bring their kids to games and stuff and don't? Well, they said they applauded the decision They don't share that. So you can tell news by what it leaves out as well. So they ended. And to bring it back to Sudbury, there you have. Was it Mark Stahl and Eric Stahl, or they both played for the Sudbury Wolves. They were involved in that, right? And Akim Aliu, former Sudbury Wolves player. So out of the 4 NHL players they named there, 3 of them were Sudbury Wolves. 2 of them on the side of, they don't think hockey should be a place where it's politicized. And Akim Aliu feels this was a hateful decision, right? So it's not that everyone agrees. Everyone doesn't agree. So, but CBC would like you to think there's only a small group of people who actually don't go along with this particular thing. Now, the premier of New Brunswick doesn't agree with it. And so if someone wants to be called or whatever pronoun or whatever gender, they put into place that parents have to be notified if someone changes their gender, which obviously that parent was talking from North Carolina about how she feels as a parent and what's going on here. So they want to keep it a secret from parents if they change genders. So let's listen to a CBC reporter talking with the premier of New Brunswick and if you can catch what side of this debate the CBC reporter is on. It shouldn't be a surprise. Let's see if it sounds unbiased.
The right people engaged in that process.
Right. But the uproar is being caused by the changes to the policy, which now, if I understand correctly, mean that students under the age of 16 need parental consent to change their names or their pronouns. And if that's not possible, then they have to go to a guidance counselor or a social worker. How does that help children who might be dealing with that issue?
Well, it helps because it puts them in a position where they can speak to trained authorities, and I'm talking about social workers or
Right.
guidance counselors, psychologists, so they can have these discussions openly with them. We will understand, or they will understand, situations at home, and then a plan will be put together to protect that child and to work through a process and maybe at some point educate the parents as well. In kind of what the next step should be.
Sure.
That is all this is finding the right path, and that is the big challenge. I don't think anyone would disagree with the philosophy that parents should have a role, but the time has to be right for the student, and that's the goal, is finding that right time, but not purposely, going on for, let's say, months or years with the parents totally outside of the loop.
You used some language yesterday in the legislature that I frankly, I'm not sure Premier actually helped the conversation. You talked about gender dysphoria becoming, quote, popular and trendy. You said, we have a situation that's growing because there's acceptance that this is fine. Do you think that those are appropriate comments? Do you have a problem with the idea of gender dysphoria?
Well, my position, Rosemary, is not the issue in that sense. My position as a grandfather and as a father is that I think that kids in especially these vulnerable years in elementary school years, are let's say, toddlers being exposed to, well, I may not be a boy or girl. That is the role that parents need to play a role. Those are very formative years, and so how do we ensure that everyone understands what is being presented, what's in the school system, and then we work through it.
Sure, but I guess I'm wondering, Premier, if your personal views are influencing your policy decisions, because it sounds like they are.
No, Rosemary, it's not about my personal views at all. It's about a role as a parent and a grandparent, and thinking about my grandchildren now that would be attending school, and the fact that her parents would not know what she was being taught or what information was being supplied. Because I think most parents, take for granted that the school system is doing everything that they would approve of. But there's so many things that parents are asked to have their consent on, so many things, and yet gender identity is not one of them.
But do you understand that there are children who would not be comfortable telling their parents that, who would not feel safe?
So as this Premier gets a lecture from the CBC reporter on things that he doesn't understand and whatever, that's the place of a reporter, right? In an interview, is to lecture them on what they're doing and what they could be causing and things like that, not just asking them questions. So if you don't see the bias in that, then I don't really know. So I shared three stories from the CBC today on my show. So I'm not sharing conservative, just only conservative videos. So it should show a little bit of balance there. And I'll do my best to share more and more of them, because it's actually more effective to actually show what I'm talking about rather than just talk about it. And thanks for being with us today. I really appreciate it. All your comments, there's been so much, and did my best to get them all up on the screen today. We got a little bit of time for a deep dive, and God willing, we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. Thanks for being with us, and check us out tomorrow as well. Make sure to share and take care, and stay safe, everyone. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.